Vanessa. I am the chair of the Administrative Appeals Board, and I hereby call the regular meeting of the Administrative Appeals Board for November 30th, 2022 to order. Board Secretary, could you please call the roll?
Board Member Vasily,
Here.
Here.
Board Member Moses,
Here.
Vice Chair King,
Here.
Board Member Sinclair,
Here.
Chair Panessa.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. And since this is our
I'm also
first
here.
meeting together in some 2.5 years, just to remind everybody, if you've got your cell phones on, please mute them. First item on the agenda is the acceptance of the agenda. The board can discuss and may amend the order of the agenda. And I'd like to entertain a motion and a second for acceptance
So
of the
moved.
agenda.
Second.
Thank you. Board Secretary, can you call the vote?
Board Member Moses, or sorry, Board Member Sinclair,
Here.
Yes, is
Board Member
that a
Moses.
yes?
Aye. Wake up, Wayne.
Okay, yes or no?
Just.
Yes. Board Member Moses,
Yes.
Board Member Vasily,
Yes. Yes.
Vice Chair King,
Aye.
Chair Panessa.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Thank you. Next item on the agenda is public comment. This time is set aside for members of the public to address the board on items of general interest within the subject matter jurisdiction of this board. 3 minutes will be assigned to each speaker, and although the board does value your comments pursuant to the Brown Act, the board generally cannot take any action on items not listed on the posted agenda. Testimony for hearings will be taken at the time of each hearing. Board Secretary, can you begin the public testimony period?
Steve Rosenberg,
Let's stand or sit.
You're welcome to sit and just make sure the mic is on, please.
Good evening. My name's Steve Rosenberg, and I've had the honor and privilege of serving on 3 commissions, including the Airport Commission, Measure J, and indeed the Administrative Appeals Board. So when I make my comments, be aware that I've been in your seat. And I think that one of the reasons that we have the Administrative Appeals Board here in Palm Springs, to use a baseball analogy, is to be the shortstop, to keep things in the infield, not to let them get out to the outfield. And I think in looking at various cases that come before you, you have a multitude of factors to consider. But the last time I spoke was via Zoom, and I was muted when someone referred to me as counselor. I'm not a lawyer, but I take that to be a compliment. My legal training, if you will, was business law in postgraduate work and a lifetime of experience in the business world. And we have an expression with regard to business contracts. We say the contract is contained between the 4 corners of the document. And what it means is all this other stuff that people say and do, no, that's not part of the contract. So I would suggest to you tonight, you're going to be looking at a citation for reefer madness. And that citation has 4 corners. There's a lot of information that was put in the staff report at the last minute that's not in the citation. And I would heartily recommend to you that you focus on the points in the citation and ignore the extraneous comments and issues that have been brought up.
Okay, can I interrupt you for just a
You
moment?
certainly may.
Is your comments specific to that case? And if it
No,
is,
no,
I would
it's,
ask you hold it till that we hear
no,
that case.
it's just in general in terms of any case that's brought before you.
Okay,
When you have vacation rental complaints, for instance, they say there's a noise complaint. They don't in their report say the crowd was loud, was drunken and disorderly, and there was food on the floor and the dog was barking. No, they say we took decibel readings on our meter. So the complaint is noise. It's not whether the house was neat or messy. And you don't see that stuff being thrown in. I think, unfortunately, in the case of cannabis, and I'm using this in general terms now, there have been a lot of extraneous things thrown into the the comments that are presented to this board that are not part of the citation. So I would ask when that appropriate time comes, we'll be guided accordingly. It's not an easy job you guys have got, and lady, excuse me, but I understand that you have to parse things. I'll speak in detail about Mr. Haddock's
Case.
case. Yes, thank you, at the appropriate time. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else?
That's the only registered speaker I have. If anyone else is present with a general public comment, you're welcome to approach. Seeing none.
All right, then we will dive into our agenda. Before we start, I apologize. I want to introduce Mr. Abe Sanchez. He is replacing Jill as our city attorney advisor. We thank Jill for her service and welcome you. I'm sure we'll have questions for you as we go, so welcome. All right, so the next item on the agenda is item number 4. It's the appeal of the permanent ban and an administrative fine.
Wait,
Oh, sorry, did I miss?
number 3, unless they changed it. I'm looking at.
Yeah, where's the discussion regarding differences?
Regarding defenses based on agency and republic, sure.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Partnership liability. And we can push that to the end. since that's
We
a-
probably should do it first because I think that case is first. So thank you.
Got you.
So is there, sorry to put you on the spot, is that something I know we had all received some information from your office today? And if maybe you want to explain what was sent to us.
Yeah, so you. I apologize.
There you go. Turn it on. Push the button.
There you go.
Sorry.
There you go.
Is that it?
Perfect.
Yes.
Great, sorry about that. So yes, you should have received 2 memos from the city attorney's office. One memo is regarding the strict liability that's imposed for the operation of vacation rentals without a vacation rental registration certificate. And this touches on the question of agency. And what we looked at is whether the chapter 5.25 dealing with vacation rentals and the regulations thereunder allows an individual or property owner to forego liability for an unregistered vacation rental due to not being aware of or not knowing of the violation. And what we found is that under the code, there's strict liability for that. And what that means is essentially that personal knowledge by the owner of the property is not required for there to be a violation of the code. This is evident from several provisions in the municipal code. For example, one section provides that any person who operates a vacation rental without a certificate shall be liable to the city for the payment of the tax, of transient occupancy tax, pursuant to the provisions of the Palm Springs Municipal Code, chapter 3.24, including without limitation penalties and interest, payment of an administrative fine in the amount of $5,000 and permanent ineligibility to operate a vacation rental. And as you can see from the language of this provision, there's no requirement that the operation of the vacation rental occur knowingly. And so that evinces strict liability on the part of the property owner for any unregistered vacation rental. Also, in the cases where we do see that the code allows a property owner to have an agent, even in those cases, the property owner, the code is pretty clear that the property owner remains liable for those failures to abide by the regulations, including registration. For example, I think the code says the failure of an agent to comply with the chapter shall not relieve the owner or of the owner's obligations under the provisions of the chapter. So in terms of, so that's on that issue, on the agency issue. We don't, in terms of our findings with respect to the code, it seems pretty evident that the code does not require, the code imposes strict liability on the property owner, and it does not require that the property owner have any knowledge of a violation in order for the property owner to be held liable, even if that action occurs, on the part of an agent or not. It's any violation on the property. And then the second memo touches on limits on who can operate vacation rentals within the city, whether that includes only natural persons or includes private entities or limited liability companies. And the memo focuses on limited liability companies. Well, what we found under the code is that the code specifically provides that a vacation rental registration certificate shall not be issued to any business entity other than a limited liability company. And business entity is defined as, under the code, as a corporation, partnership, or other legal entity that is not a natural person or a person or family trust. And so what this taken together means is that the chapter 5.25 allows only the following to operate vacation rentals, which is natural persons, personal or family trusts, and limited liability companies. And we briefly discussed the liability that limited liability companies can face, the members and managers of limited liability companies can face for violations of the code. And generally under the Corporations Code of California, members and managers of an LLC will not be liable for the debts or obligations or other liabilities of an LLC. There are certain exceptions to this general rule, and those include: one, where there's an agreement between the members or the managers of the LLC to assume liability; two, where there's tortious conduct on the part of the member or the manager that leads to the liability.
Can what is that? I'm not an attorney.
Yeah.
What is tortious conduct?
Tortious conduct would be, for example, if the member shoots somebody, they cannot then pass it on to the LLC because that's direct conduct by the member or manager that leads to the violation. That gives rise to the obligation. And lastly, which we discussed most at TED because we think it will be most relevant here, is under California law, there's also instances in which a member or manager of a limited liability company can be liable for an obligation by an LLC, and that's where alter ego liability is established. And essentially what that means is that the individuals who form the LLC or the members of the LLC have not taken sufficient or adequate steps to distinguish themselves from the limited liability company, such that the courts they call it piercing the veil, which is basically piercing through that shield of liability that's created by the formation of the company. And that is a fact-specific analysis that must take place. We do provide some practical guidance for the steps that you may consider in evaluating whether that's the case, and that involves confirming that the LLC is in good standing with the Secretary of State, that they filed articles of incorporation, that they've been filing their tax returns, etc. And also, just as a practical basis at the outset, when you're determining whether a violation can be issued to an LLC or to an individual, you might also consider confirming and verifying ownership of the property by running a title search, because there are instances in which a member or manager of an LLC can transfer property to an LLC but fails to do so properly. And as I discussed in the first part of my comments, the code pretty stringently places liability on the property owner. So ultimately, if an LLC, if the property was not transferred properly to an LLC, but it is the property owner who will have the liability.
Okay.
And I'm happy to take any questions.
So it's from my interpretation of what you just described, because we've come up against this a multitude of times. So I think, Patrick, that is going to fall into your lap if it's an LLC. Well, I guess, will you guys know if it's an LLC when you issue a fine or a suspension or any other penalty?
We will. One step that code compliance does when they issue a citation is run title. And if the title does show that it is owned by an LLC, they will issue the citation to the LLC at that time.
Okay, and then it's up to is it fair to assume that it's up to the appellant to, once that fine or penalty is assessed to the LLC, that they somehow, that's beyond us, that is then between them and their LLC or to rectify however they see fit. Okay, so we don't do anything different. You'll let us know if title shows it's owned by the person or it's owned by an LLC. Our process stays the same, and then it's up to the appellant to how they handle that.
That's correct, and what we can do further is in our future staff reports, when the situation does come up, is we do put that the entity that decided it was the LLC, and we can just make sure to put that the property was found to be on the LLC. We also usually always in our staff reports provide a copy of the title search they did, which will then support the LLC as well.
Anybody, I'm sorry.
Yes, I
Right into there.
Here's another microphone, by the way.
Who
So
would be responsible for the lifetime ban? The LLC or an individual, or how's that?
It's whoever is listed as a property owner. So if it's the LLC that's listed as a property owner, they would be responsible for that. If it's the owner, if it's the individual, they would be responsible.
Does the LLC also pay the fine?
The LLC would also pay the fine, yes.
There's a question.
Mr. Hedrick,
You're muted, Ken.
you're muted.
Okay, I think I've unmuted now.
There you go.
Two questions. First, in the case of the LLC, and the LLC is liable, is that a way that people can shield themselves from lifetime bans? So my vacation rental is in an LLC. I get charged. The LLC is banned. What prevents me from going to another property and registering it in my own name?
Question for you, Patrick.
Well, I'll be happy to answer what we do currently, and I would rest for the city attorney to confirm if it's the appropriate practice. But currently what happens is we do issue a citation to the LLC, and we do determine that it consists of natural persons, and we know the natural persons, we maintain lists of the natural persons, and we would not permit them to apply for a future vacation rental certificate.
And then my second question is regarding what is agency? So Mr. Poindexter goes on vacation for 3 months. And since I live in the same neighborhood as him, he's asked me to check to make sure the air conditioners are working and the pool pump is working and the place is being properly maintained by his various services. Unbeknownst to Mr. Poindexter, I leased the place to 6 Germans who are here for the International Polka Contest. And they are doing polka exercises at 6 a.m. in the morning with music. In the evening, they're playing polka music and dancing and grilling brats. Mr. Poindexter has no idea that this is happening. 0. All he's asked me to do is to look to make sure the house is okay. I haven't given him any money. He hasn't given me any money. Is that an agency agreement?
So agency under corporate law can be created in a variety of ways. And really what it comes down to is whether the individual is given authority to act with respect to certain matters, right? So in this case, there would be an agency relationship created on the part of the owner to the individual with respect to the maintenance of the house. There may not, and it would be, again, a factual question that we would need to analyze, but there may not be agency created for the purpose of renting out the property. But again, and I think that's where the memo goes into further detail, is the code does not require an agency relationship to exist in order to create liability for the property owner. So for example, if the property is rented without a certificate, the property owner remains liable regardless of whether an agent of the property owner did the listing or not. I don't know if that answers your
It
question.
does. It should.
So it sounds like, if I can boil this down to non-legalese, the agency is not a factor for our purposes. It is, was the property rented without a certificate, yes or no. It doesn't, for our purposes, whether or not there was an agency relationship is irrelevant.
That's correct.
We were saying per the current ordinance.
That's correct.
Okay.
Right, so Ken, sounds like Mr. Poindexter's SOL. Just saying.
I'm sure he'll never ask me to look after his property after this.
It's just a, right, that's just.
That's what I'm
Sort of.
interpreting what you're
Yes,
saying. So,
right.
does anybody else have any questions? All right, thank you for that. All right, so we are gonna dive in now. Next item is number 4. It is our the appeal of the permanent ban that we heard at the last meeting. Permanent ban and administrative fine of $5,000 concerning Richard Langley and the property at 483 East Santiago Way. Board Secretary, can you ensure that the city staff and the appellant understand their testimony is under oath?
Chair Vanessa, we do have signed oaths from each appellant.
Okay. We have heard, and all of us were present last month. Do we need to rehear? Does anybody wish to rehear testimony?
No.
And let me ask, is there any new testimony from the city?
Yes, Chair, thank you. I wasn't here at the last meeting, but I have had a chance to read the minutes from the last meeting, as well as the appeal from the appellant. And I can further provide additional material if appropriate from the city, if it's appropriate at this time.
Okay, and then if you're providing additional material, we will allow the appellant to respond. So,
Yeah, thank you.
thank you. Go ahead, please.
Yep, just to introduce myself, my name is Patrick Clifford with the Department of Special Program Compliance, which we oversee the vacation rental program with the city of Palm Springs. I was not present on the last appeals meeting regarding the property at 483 East Santiago Way. I did review the minutes that were from that meeting, and I would just further like to express that in the minutes, it said that the owner, Mr. Richard Langley, the appellant, stated that he was unaware that it was advertised as a vacation rental, and his partner, John Sessa, rented it without him knowing. And then when I was reviewing the appeal from Mr. Langley, who filed the appeal, it stated that they decided after 25 years of ownership to rent our home, not by desire, but urgent need, as COVID almost destroyed our financial means. So I would just like to further put that as far as testimony from the city, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions from the board?
Yeah, we'll sit up there, actually, thank you.
Can I just?
Hi, gentlemen, how are you?
Hi, great, thanks.
Nice to meet you. I'd like to respond to that.
Hold on, it's not your chance. Mr. Sinclair, anything? Mr. Moses?
For personal reasons, I've decided to recuse myself from this particular matter.
All right, thank you. Vice Chair King,
Don't have any questions about the city.
Mr. Hedrick? No, and Mr. Vasilic.
No questions.
All right, thank you. All right, so since the city presented additional material, you, Mr. Langley?
I am.
All right, you would have 2 minutes to respond.
I don't think it really makes a sense. Sounds like there's already judge, jury, and hung here already from what he said, actually. That I don't even have to know. So you're telling me that I can own a piece of property in Palm Springs and that anybody can come in while I'm in Turks and Caicos working, they can use my property to no knowledge of mine whatsoever, and I can be held accountable? That's what you're telling me. I went to law school as well. And I've also spoke to my constitutional lawyer about what happened here today, and he agrees with you 100%. So I'd like, and your application is filled out after the fact, not prior. So when we, after the fact, we said, okay, now that you've done that, let's go ahead and rent it.
So I'm not sure I understand.
his comment that I made a statement in the response to the citation that we decided to rent it was after the fact, not prior to the incident occurring. I had no idea my house was being rented. I've got my grandmother's dishes in there. I certainly went and rent my house out.
Okay.
And it actually broke up my relationship, if you're happy about that. So, yeah, and I don't think from what you've stated already that it's a waste of my time to even fly in and come to this. So if that's the city's rule, sounds like I really need to start with my constitutional lawyer, go to my legislator and redo what the city's doing here, because that's a direct violation of my constitutional rights as a landowner. Whether you want to enforce it or not, you're not able to constitutionally. I didn't buy a hotel here, I bought a home. And it's not registered as a hotel. So I will greatly challenge what you're doing here. And I've already spoke with a constitutional lawyer. What you're doing is not okay. And he knows it. And he is a lawyer. You're not. You don't even know basic legal language.
All right, thank you, sir.
Yeah.
All right, is there any questions for the appellant? Mr. Hedrick, Mr. Vasili?
None. No questions.
All right,
No question.
thank you. So at this point, again, we will close the public testimony, this time for the board to discuss what we have heard before we vote to uphold or overturn this. Any comments for discussion? Mr. Sinclair?
No, I think, we heard, that we discussed this a long time. And I've practiced law for more than 40 years. And while this may or may not be something that everybody likes, it's the law. And I've been both on this panel and in my life have been charged with upholding the law. And so that's what I'm going to do. And if somebody wants to challenge that, that's fine. But I think we need to do what we need to do.
Can I speak again?
No,
No, I'm sorry, your time
No, I
is done.
can't. Then
Vice Chair
why are
King.
we having a committee if you're just upholding the law? Why don't you just send a citation and then enforce payment? The whole purpose of the legislative committee is to hear situations like this and to rule outside of the letter of law. That's why you're sitting there, to help people, not to harm people.
All right, thank you. Vice Chair Kane, any comments?
I don't have any comments.
All right, Mr. Vasili? Any comments for discussion?
No comments.
Mr. Hendrick?
I still find this a very difficult situation. That's it.
Okay, I guess from my standpoint, I agree with Mr. Sinclair. Our role is not to decide if we approve or disapprove or like the language or don't like the language. The city council wrote the ordinance how they saw fit. If any of us here don't like the way it's written, then we need to work with or run for the city council. So having said that, is there a motion?
I mean, we uphold the citation.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Board Secretary, can you call the vote?
Board Member Sinclair,
Aye.
Vice
Aye.
Chair Kane,
Aye.
Board Member Vasili,
Aye.
Board Member Hedrick,
No.
Chair Panessa.
Aye.
Motion carries 4-1.
All right, thank you, everyone, for your time on this case. We are going to move on to the next case.
Mr. Panessa, I'd like to.
Concerning the
make
property.
out with-
100 East,
What?
what?
Ken's talking.
I'm sorry?
Mr. Panessa, I'd like to beg out. I am sick as a dog. I just wanted to be on this first case. I just didn't want to share with you all tonight.
Thank you. All right, we appreciate your participation. Hope you feel better.
Thank you. Thank you all. Have a good holiday.
You too.
Okay.
Thanks. All right, so we do still have a quorum because Mr. Moses will be
I'm back in.
rejoining for the next case.
I am.
So next item is number 5 on the agenda. Concerning the property at 2600 East Vincentia Road. It is an appeal of the $5,000 fine and administrative decision that Su Ling Tian, hopefully I'm saying that correctly, is permanently ineligible to operate a vacation rental in the city of Palm Springs. Board Secretary, can you please ensure that the city staff and appellant understand that their testimony is under oath?
And Chair Vanessa, I have affidavits from city staff, and I'd just like to state for the record that appellant is sick and will not be joining us tonight. It is your discretion whether you'd like to hear the appeal in their absence or reschedule.
Please clarify for us, is this the first postponement for this case?
It is not. I believe it has been postponed since June. Rescheduled a couple of times, and the appellant, the actual registered owner, is not the person who submitted the paperwork or has been in correspondence with the city.
Okay. Why don't we, I'll ask each member if you would like to hear this case without the appellant or postpone. Mr. Sinclair,
I think we should move ahead.
to hear it. Is that Mr. Moses?
Yes, Your Honor, I think we should postpone.
Vice Chair Kane?
I'm somewhat confused as to your statement that interaction with the city has not been the registrar.
It's my understanding that it is a representative. We have a letter that was submitted in Mandarin and translated. So as far as we know, this person is just the designated spokesperson.
And that designated spokesperson said they are ill.
Correct.
But-
And the appellant or the actual owner has not been in touch with us.
And this has been postponed several or once or several times?
As far as I know, just once, June, and then it got lost.
June Until now.
I changed my mind.
Okay,
So we should postpone. We'll give it one more shot.
all right, so because it doesn't matter how I vote, the majority would say, Mr. Basile, actually will let you hear from you first before
I think we
you would.
we should postpone it.
All right, so let's at least give them one more shot to postpone. In fairness, it's always really hard to hear a case without the appellant. So I think we're in agreement. We would give them at least one more postponement.
Just for clarification, would you like to continue to a date uncertain or until the December meeting?
My choice would be till the December meeting, so we don't keep just snowballing.
Okay, we'll put on the December agenda.
Great. Thank you. All right. We're gonna move on. Next item is item number 6, concerning the property at 2354 West Nicola Road. This is an appeal of a $2,500 fine and administrative decision that Noreen, and I'm afraid to say this person's name so inaccurately, will have a 6-month suspension of the vacation rental certificate. Board Secretary, could you ensure that the city staff and the appellant understand that they are under oath?
Chair Vanessa, I can confirm we have signed affidavits on file for staff members. I do not see an affidavit from the appellant. I'm not sure they are present.
You're here? Okay. Did you sign a blue form? I think they're on the podium. If you can sign that, so that says basically you understand your testimony is under oath. So while he's doing that, we will go ahead and I'll ask for the city report or staff report from the city.
Thank you. Thank you. Good evening, Chair, Vice Chair, board members, city staff, public, and meeting this evening. My name is Patrick Clifford with the Department of Special Program Compliance, and we oversee the vacation rental program here in the city of Palm Springs. And before you this evening is a staff report for vacation rental appeal for the property located at 2354 West Nicola Road here in Palm Springs. It was found that this property operated as a vacation rental without submitting a required contract summary for a stay that was 28 days or less to the city. Code officer Wade is here. He's a code officer that responded to the call for the property as well as issued the citation. Additionally, inside your packet this evening is attachments relating to the citation that was issued. which is attachment 5. Going back, the officer report is attachment 4, and some further information regarding the application documents for the vacation rentals applicate or certificates and attachment 6. We included those application documents because when a prospective registrant wants to apply for the vacation rental certificate, they have to complete an application, and once the application has been completed, our staff sends out what we call like a welcome email saying, these are the responsibilities, this is your city ID, make sure to submit contract summaries for your stay. And so we provided that email as well in the staff report this evening. And then our final attachment is to just an overview of the contract summaries that the appellant has submitted for the property for other vacation rental stays. So I am available for additional questions, but I would like to invite Code Officer Wade to further provide testimony. Thank you.
So I'm Dustin Wade, Code Compliance Officer for the City of Palm Springs. So the City of Palm Springs Vacation Rental Hotline received a call regarding the address 2354 West Nicola on October 22nd, 2022 at 10:15 p.m. regarding loud occupants and too many vehicles parked on the property. Before heading to the call, I checked the vacation rental database to check if a contract summary was submitted for this time frame. I was unable to locate a contract summary submitted. I arrived at the property at 10:41 p.m. and observed the location from the street in front of the home. While making my observations, an occupant came out of the house, and when he opened the front door, I could hear music coming from inside the location. Upon speaking to the occupant, George A, we'll call it for the same reasons, last name, he stated that the home is his cousin's house. His cousin's name was Nicholas. He was letting them stay there for the weekend. Upon further questioning, he stated that the cousin was not on site nor staying with them. On arriving back to the station, I completed a more thorough search of the vacation rental databases, and there were no contract summaries submitted for the occupant's stay in violation of PSMC 525-070H. I issued administrative citation AB 0412 through the mail to the owner of the property for failing to submit a contract summary. This concludes my presentation, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you. Why don't we start with Mr. Vasili? Do you have any questions for the city?
No, I don't have any questions right now.
Thank you. Mr. Sinclair,
No,
Mr. Moses,
No,
Vice Chair Kane.
Just, Patrick, show me where, is it attachment 6? Where's it talk about family, telling the city who your family members are? Is it in the FAQ?
Yeah, I don't believe that is in the attachments and stuff.
Oh, wait, it is. It's on number 18. I just want to be clear. Is it number 18 in the FAQ?
Yeah, I've got number 18.
Yeah, that's correct. Friends and family part.
So this comes attached to that email.
I believe it's a link.
It's a link. Okay. And that is the relevant, right, piece of information we're talking about this evening?
And correct, I can add further information to regarding the steps of friends and family list as well, if you like.
Please.
So at the time of application, we do ask that an applicant, and this is optional, we don't require them to fill out this form, but it's what we call a friends and family list. That allows them to designate 5 persons to be on this list who can occupy the property anytime, no charge, without the owner being present, thus not having a contract submitted. So uniquely, what the ordinance is, I guess you could say designed or states for us and how we've interpreted it is that when you rent a property, whether it's for compensation or not, or you exchange or let use, again, whether it's for compensation or not, as you're a registered vacation rental, that would be one contract use under your allotted 32 plus 4 for the year. That contracts, the friends and family list really kind of designates those friends and family to have the same entitlements, I guess you could say, as an owner would, where if an owner was staying at their property and for a short term time, they would not submit a contract summary. Thus, we would not expect those friends and family to do so as well. However, they do have to follow rules such as music and parking limitations, but we don't require them to do a contract summary at that time. I did want to further point out too, is I did read the appellant's appeal, and on our contract summary web tool, which I think was also provided as an attachment to, it does state, you know, on our website currently on that tool, owners and owners, family and friends occupancy do not require a contract summary.
Right.
And so I could see from, you know, the city's, my perspective with the city too, that there could be a little bit of gray or vagueness with that, with respect to that. So at one time we have a document that says, number 18, it says friends and family requirements, you know, that they have to fill that out. But then also on the contract summary not. So I did want to put that I have read that appeal, and I wanted to provide that in my testimony as well. But with the friends and family list, how it is that when they do stay at the property, those people on the list, we're not looking for a contract summary from. But if they're not on that list, we would expect a contract summary.
Right, but you say it's suggested, it's not required.
If the friends are not on the list, we do need a contract summary. Yes,
Right.
yes, that one's good. They need to be.
I understand now, it is fine tuned details that we're talking about, so I got you.
Another detail is that a lot of these that we go to, there won't be any friends and family listed for the property. So they've never submitted something. This property at the time of the citation did have a full friends and family list that had been submitted to the city.
But the occupants were not on that list.
All right, and that was gonna be my question.
Yeah.
Was there actually a friends and family? And if there was,
there was.
sorry, this is the city's, you'll have your turn. So there was a friends and family, but the person that was occupying it, and is there, if there was other people there, are you able to know if anyone else there was on that list or?
The person, when I was there, I asked, because he said, he had stated that it was his cousin's Nicholas house. I asked if Nicholas was there, being aware that there was a Nicholas on the friends and family list, and he said, no, there is not. That he wasn't there and that he wasn't staying with them for the weekend.
Okay,
So,
and this person you spoke to was just somebody who happened to open the door.
right, his name was George.
Okay, I guess my question though is that if there was multiple people in the house, was there, was there any way to know if anyone else in the house was on that list?
Not that I'm aware of without going through the house and asking every one of them their names.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yeah, usually that they'll mention, you know, usually it'll be somebody that says, you know, this person that is here is a family member and is on the list. You know, that we've run across that before.
Okay, all right, thank you. Anything further from the city?
Nothing further, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, Dave, a question?
Yeah, in the same dialogue, because now I'm confused. If I own a house and I want to have house guests, friends and family, whatever, and I don't charge anybody, I don't have to file anything.
No, the charge is not the issue. Money's not the issue.
Right, the city, it's if you have a certificate, and correct me if I'm
No,
wrong.
no, that's coming.
Yeah.
Okay, if I have a certificate, then I've got to identify all the people that are coming.
Mhm.
Something he said maybe, where if I have a number of guests over time and I'm not renting it, do I have to have filed something with the city?
Correct. If sends you a registered vacation rental, and if you're letting friends or family use it and they're not on the friends and family list that we have on file, we would expect. you to submit a
Amazing.
contract summary.
Do I have to have a list if I'm not renting to anybody? I just have a lot of friends, a lot of family that come down and stay with me and go.
Different.
Or if you don't have a registration, if you're not registered with the city and participating in the vacation rental program,
You
then
can
we
do
don't need
it
a list,
forever.
you're not in our program to monitor for a list.
Yeah, I guess so.
Okay. All right, thank you from the city. At this point, we'll open up the public appeal hearing. Excuse me, the appellant is invited to speak for up to 10 minutes. Any member of the public who desires to speak on this appeal hearing shall have up to 3 minutes to speak. If any member of the public testifies, the appellant will be invited to speak for up to an additional 2 minutes. Board Secretary, can you begin the public testimony period?
But do they all want to come up here? You can share your 10 minutes.
Oh, yeah, that's
But
just-
you got 10
You're
minutes.
just 10 minutes. It's not 10 minutes for
Total.
each of you.
Total.
Yeah, that's no problem.
All right.
That's no problem.
And just for the record, I do have signed affidavits from each of the gentlemen present.
Great. If you can identify yourself and then
Hello.
please, your 10 minutes will begin.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nicholas Churcham. So what happened was George was the one who spoke with the compliance officer, but at the property, and I don't know, either George you stated that I wasn't there. The compliance officer said that Nicholas wasn't at the property. I mean, George said that to the compliance officer, which was true. But on the friends and family list, there are 4 other people besides me. Which one of them has to be Armin? He was on that list as well. And I believe it was you that said, did you go inside the home and see if any of the occupants, did you get their names down? Did you get who they were? And he said no. So how can you sit there and tell me that this man was not at the property when the only person you spoke to was George? And inside there was multiple other people. How is that? You know, let me ask you guys that. How can you prove that other people in the home were not him? He was at that property at the time. The only person that spoke to him was George, along with other people that were inside the home as well. So.
You have 10 minutes to just tell us everything.
No, that's fine.
And then
I don't
we
want
can
to tell you
have a
guys.
conversation.
No, I'd
Do
rather
you
have
have
like.
anything else you want to tell us? Because we're not going to talk to you until you're done.
How's it going, everyone? I'm George, the one who answered the door. I am Nick's cousin. Aramik was with us. He was just in the house. I coincidentally came out to get a pack of gum from the car and I see the 3 compliance officers outside. They were cordial, professional, really nice. They did their job, that's fine. I just wasn't informed of I didn't even know that I was supposed to call a specific person out. I just saw 3 guys standing outside and I said the same thing to them that I'll say to you guys. We just don't want any problems. You tell me what you needed me to do and I complied. Even in the readings for the decibels, you'll see that it was 40 or something was the highest. 38, whatever it was. We were not being loud to an excessive level, obnoxious level. Armik was in the house. It was just do I leave them and then run in? I didn't even know I was supposed to go get him. To be honest with you, I'm just at the house. And I have childhood photos with him. He is actually my cousin. So I don't know what to prove to anyone or what you guys want to see.
What would have been great is if somebody had contacted me and called me and said, one of the compliance officers said, hey, Nick, we're at your property. This is the situation. And I said, okay, great. Let me tell them how it goes. Let me tell my cousins that there's a list. There's whoever's on the list, let them come out. I would have called Armin and said, hey, this is the situation. Just go speak with him. And this would all would have been, canceled. We wouldn't have been here. And that's, I just wish someone contacted me and this would all have been resolved at the spot. He would have came out, said it's him, showed his ID and called it a night. That's, see anything?
Anything further?
No, but if you have any questions, I'll be glad to
Okay.
answer.
Thank you. That's my role. So we'll open up, we'll conclude the public portion of this. And at this point, if the board members have any questions for the appellants, why don't we start? Poor Mr. Vasili's off there by himself. Any questions for the appellant?
Yeah, I do. So did I hear that one of the folks that was in the house was also on the list, approved list? That I'm confused with that. I not sure if I heard that. So I guess my question was, is what I heard is that if one of the you have a list of folks that are on this list, and obviously there was only one person asked their name. And so were any of the other people in the house at the time on that list of family or friends?
Yes, they were.
Okay, that's the only question I have.
Thank you, Mr. Sinclair.
And is this the person who was on the list, who's with you?
Yes.
Can you check that, Patrick? Do you have the list?
I did during their comment and I confirmed on the list.
Okay, thanks.
Mr. Moses, any questions for the appellant?
No, thank you.
Vice Chair Kane?
I just have, I guess, can I talk to Patrick?
Sure.
This citation is for not having that contract summary. It's not about any of the other, like, it's not about noise, it's not about anything else. It's
That's
just
correct.
this issue of contract summary and this issue of like people on the list. Does this come up a lot? Because I don't think we've heard this, have we before?
Not that I recall.
I can't recall the last time maybe we've had a contract summary violation with the family.
Friends and family issue.
We have had cases where there's been no contract summaries, but not.
Sure, yes, and I know that, but this, it seems as if they certainly are using the system the way they should be, because you even had a list. So they knew about the list, like I thought I might hear that they didn't have a list at all, but they have a list. So, and we know we have some sort of contradictory potential statements on the tool for things that are confusing, I'll just say. So if that's accurate, then we can proceed.
Okay, and I just want to be, I know you've testified, I just want to be absolutely clear. It's your testimony under oath that you were there at that time.
Yes, sir.
All right, I have no further questions. Is anybody else? Was there anyone else that was, I thought you had a couple of names, but is that these three gentlemen?
Yes.
Okay, so at this point, we will close the public testimony point. And at this point, the board will discuss. Again, Mr. Basili, you're off in no man's land. Why don't you, if you have any comments for discussion with the
Patrick
board?
has a comment.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Patrick.
Yeah, I was just gonna further state, after listening to the comments, just to clarify something if appropriate. Code officers they do make contact with a local contact, maybe not the property owner themselves. So I'd be happy to make sure the local contacts that we have on file that they may have called is appropriate for you. So next time if a situation does occur, the right contacts are on file right now.
Can they contact me personally instead? Or the number on the application, the owner, the homeowner?
Our code officer is going to call who you designate as your local contact on your application. So that's may include they may.
We're not local. I'm not local. I'm the owner, but I'm not local.
Okay, so I don't know if your local contacts at that time may have got a call from the code officer and then reiterated it to yourself as an owner, but you can put yourself as a secondary contact as well. From the local contact perspective from the city is we need someone that can respond to the property within 30 minutes.
Yeah, just okay, but just so
Can we, because you have your question is specific about you being the contact, so why don't we take that offline and you guys can have that conversation?
we'll talk.
Because it sounds like there is a system to address that, but we don't want to all sit here for that conversation. So, Mr. Basili, any comments for the board discussion?
Yeah, I just, it's tricky because it's really unclear whether or not, and I hate to say it this way, but whether or not it was questioned whether or not there was a person in the house that was on the approved list. And so it's really hard for me to make a decision on this because it's not clear how it was handled. That's all I have to say.
Okay, I'm going to go in a little bit of reverse order here. Vice Chair Kane, any comments?
Well, I guess my just general comment, and kind of got the gist of it earlier, is that this is in many ways like a work in progress. It's a program, it changes, it learns, right? You have different styles of people's compliance is a complicated thing. So as this, these like sort of areas where there's some level of learning, things can get handled differently the next time. I kind of feel like there's some opening for that, based on the fact pattern, I guess, here.
Mr. Moses?
I have trouble understanding what was done wrong. Someone, not the owner, who didn't know about a list, answered the door and said whatever he said. How does that rise to the level of something, quote, wrong, close quote? What am I missing?
I don't think you're missing anything. I mean, Mr. Clifford indicated that if you're on the list and you're there, you don't have to do a summary. So in my mind, there's been nothing done here inappropriate or wrong. So for that reason, I'm going to move that we dismiss the citation and the fine.
Can I speak before you make a motion? Okay, so I guess it sounds like we're all kind of dancing around the same room. It seems like maybe the learning is that the compliance officer needs to say, is there somebody here at the house that's on the list? And if they say yes, that person needs to show an ID to prove that they're on that list. You know, so that it's not just someone saying, yeah, we're on the list.
And the compliance officer should have the list with him.
And that, I guess, is up to that department, but it seems like, in Vice Chair Kane's words, there was an opportunity to learn here to make that system just a little bit more robust. If we take the appellants at their word, that if that person that was on the list was actually in the house, then I think, as you'd said, they were following all of the rules as they're written. So that's my last comment. If you would like to make your motion.
I would make a motion that we dismiss or that we uphold their whatever.
Overturn.
That they
Can I speak for you?
Overturn.
You're moving to overturn the
Overturn.
fine and the suspension.
Yes,
Is there a second?
I've only done this for 4 or 5 years.
We don't know if we get this opportunity. I will second.
All right, thank you. Board Secretary, could you call the vote, please?
Board Member Sinclair,
Aye.
Vice Chair Kane,
Aye.
Board Member Basili,
Aye.
Board Member Moses,
Aye.
Chair Panessa.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0 to overturn.
So you actually won your appeal, so that fine and that suspension will be overturned. And I think, you know, the lesson here is that your people should know if a compliance officer comes to the door, whoever's on that list should, you know, raise their hand and the compliance officer should ask. So you'll get that official notification from the city. And you look like you have a question.
Yeah, I just want to thank you guys for the time and because I know I gave the $857. How does that get? I want to know about that refund process.
Our office will contact you next week and process refund.
Can you say your last name?
Churchian.
Churchian?
Churchian.
Church.
Churchian.
I tried.
Churchian.
All
Thank you.
right, I'm glad I didn't slaughter that. So.
All right, thank you guys so much. I appreciate it.
All right,
So we can.
you can go, you're done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Can we have a stretch?
Yeah, why don't we just take a couple of minutes and then we'll go to number 7, but Vice Chair Kane is going to be, actually, if you could wait for just a second.
Yeah, sure.
Vice Chair Kane is going to recuse herself from the next case. Did the appellant just walk out or are you?
No,
Oh, you're here.
he's right there.
Okay, so it is your choice. Because Vice Chair Kane is going to recuse herself, we only have 4 members. You have the choice of having us hear your appeal tonight or postponing till next month. That is absolutely up to you.
I would like to postpone it, and additionally, because I would like to make sure everybody has time to read what's in this report. This is the same report that was sent to the city by email Sunday night. And it was posted on the website, I believe, on Monday. And all I've done here is I printed it out and I organized it with tabs, so everything is very easy to reference.
All right, thank you. So again, that is your right to postpone. So the reason I asked that is that now we just have our last few kind of business items to take care of.
So you're just.
Board Secretary, if you could note that we'll hear that appeal next for the December meeting.
Let me ask this, and maybe it's for our comments at the end. If the quorum's 3 and we have 4, is that an automatic option or?
It is for the appellant. They can choose to postpone if they want to.
We have less than 5.
Yes, yes. If they choose not to postpone, and it is a tie vote, it then goes toward, the benefit goes towards the appellant.
Okay.
All right, so we'll move on, since now we're gonna hear that case next month. The next portion of the meeting is set aside for general comments, announcements, requests of the staff, and or issues of concern from members of the Administrative Appeal Board. Mr. Sinclair, your question is duly noted in this section. Any other from the board? Any questions, comments? So, all right, so it looks like since we met in person, we will probably be meeting in person now ongoing unless any new direction from the city council.
That's correct.
Great.
Chair Vanessa, did you skip item 8, approval of the minutes?
We haven't gotten to that yet. Wait,
I
item
have it
8.
here I have it here listed as after.
But didn't we do it?
We don't have any.
We don't have minutes
Oh,
unless,
We do have lots
Yeah,
of
we
minutes,
do.
lots of minutes.
was it, yeah, it was
Script, probably.
this, I think this is different than the agenda. The
Yeah,
official
number
agenda, so,
8 is-
sorry.
There were
Okay,
quite a
yeah.
few minutes.
So, all right, so item on the agenda, approval of the minutes from October 27th, 2021. December 1st, 2021, January 26th,
Wow.
2022, February 23rd, 2022, March 23rd, 2022, September 28th, 2022, and October 26th, 2022. It's a lot of minutes.
It is, and I'm glad
That's
I
that
will
you caught
so-
up. I second that movement.
Board Member Moses,
Aye.
Vice Chair King,
I,
Board Member Vasili,
Aye.
Board Member Sinclair,
Aye.
Chair Vanessa,
Aye.
motion carries 5-0.
All right. All right, now, back to any board member comments. No, and we will be meeting in person now ongoing, so nobody should be surprised by that. Okay, item number 9 on the agenda, I'm sorry, number 10 on the agenda is set aside for the city attorney to update the board on any issues relevant to this board.
Nothing to report.
Okay, well, you started out, so your report was duly noted and appreciated. And then the final item on the agenda is any updates from the city clerk.
3.
Our next meeting is scheduled for December 28th at 5:30, and as of now, we have 3 cases.
And that includes the one postponed,
That's correct.
okay?
And 1 continued.
Oh, so that'd be 4, correct? 'Cause there's 2 from today.
We had 1 postponed. and
Oh,
1
that's,
continued.
you're right, that was, all right, so that would be 4 cases next month.
And is it still your preference to limit your agenda to 4 cases at a time?
That tends to work pretty well.
Okay.
Does, unless we have a serious backlog,
Do we have a backlog?
No.
then yeah, I would say that probably would be good. I do have one question for you. In the past, when we met in person, we not only had the information about the appeals board, but we had what normally, when we were meeting virtually, we would get emailed all of those documents. Like I saw you had your
I have
iPad
my iPad.
at home. I always used my iPad and the computer so that I could follow along. I didn't bring that. Would it be helpful to the board to have that information
It's
printed
those
out?
binders, you guys used to do the binders.
Yeah, we've always had binders. I didn't pick mine up today because I didn't know I was supposed to. I sent a note to Cassandra and said, I'll be there in person, so you don't need to print it out for me, because I thought they already did.
So the city is actually working toward more sustainable options for our board meetings. I will need to look into that, but
Okay,
whether it's paper or electronic, we will make sure that you have
all
access.
right, so I guess pending anything different, I'll bring my iPad
Yeah,
so I
you
can,
printed yours out. Didn't you? Okay.
Yes, but we
Okay.
will make it available in some format.
okay, thank you. All right, unless anybody has anything else, if there is a motion to adjourn, and are we to take these with us? Is that
Yeah.
okay?
Take the
The red
The-
one.
the red
Yeah.
binders provided by the appellant and then leave your reference binders on.
Yeah.
The table.
Okay. Anybody else have anything else? Mr. Vasili will probably, but you got this in an email
You can take it.
separately from Sandra today, so you have this information.
Just the
All right,
code.
is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
Don't need a second.
We don't have a second for
Oh,
that?
you
Why do I?
always do.
I
I
do
love that he
always-
says it every time.
Yeah.
Every
I
time.
do. It's true.
I need a
All right,
second.
thank you everyone for your time and work.
Thank
We will see